How to build a Heroclix Swarm team coming right up. Alright guys, and this is my Swarm team. Before we get too far into this, why don't you go ahead and post in the comments some of your favorite Swarm teams to run so that we can compare notes. So before we really go any further than this, let's go ahead and talk about what a Swarm team is. A Swarm team typically has 1.5 to 2 characters per 100 points of build. So in this example, we have 6 characters and we're doing a 300 point build. So that's 2 figures per 100 points. When you are building a Swarm team, typically what happens is one figure has one role, another figure has another role. There's not very many figures that will do multiple jobs. So when you're looking to build a Swarm team, some figures that you need to look for are pure support figures, and on this team that would be Tilly and Donatello and Leonardo. You need to look for a mass transporter because you're going to have a lot of figures on your team and you're only going to have so many actions to go around. So on this one it's Tilly and her special on her movement that allows her to carry 4 characters. And you're also going to want to make sure that you have somebody with leadership, especially with the new leadership change where you automatically get +1 actions to your action totals. In this example, we have Leonardo, who has a special leadership that allows him to remove multiple tokens from adjacent friendly characters that share that have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle keyword on them. Another thing you want to look for is you want to make sure that you have at least 2 to 3 first tier attackers. First tier attackers, in my opinion, typically have an 11 attack. And on this team, we're fortunate enough to have 4 figures that all start with at least 11 attack. That would be Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael. And to round out the support figures on this team is 25 Point April from the TMNT2 starter set, where she heals friendly characters. So the pros of running a team like this would be you get multiple attackers and multiple attacks off during a turn. So in this case we have 4, and with that 1 extra action to your total from Leonardo, that means you can attack with all 4 turtles possibly in 1 turn. There's no one true figure to focus on, like if you had a tentpole team or a one-man army or something like that, where you just need to focus fire on that one figure, and once you take it down, the rest of the team crumbles. With a Swarm team, that's normally pretty difficult to do. And the last thing that makes Swarm teams good is there tends to be a lot of synergy and backup plans for if you lose a figure, and typically they really run well off of each other for the synergy. Now, some bad things about running a Swarm team are that they're typically low stats, and you'll see that most of the figures on this team, where they suffer in stats is damage. This particular team doesn't have anybody that starts with more than a 2 damage on their dial. That can be overcome. Raphael does penetrating damage. Michelangelo gives out action tokens, and he has flurry, so he can hand out 2 action tokens. So there are plans for that in there, but on this team it's damage. On other teams you might have to sacrifice in another department, and that's where your support figures will come in, like Donatello having perplex, Tilly having probability control, to try to give yourself more of a chance to stand up to a one-man army or tentpole style team. Another thing that tends to be a shortfall of Swarm teams is figures on the team tend to have shortened dials because of their point values. The highest pointed figure on this team are Leonardo and Donatello, both at 60 points. Then Tilly at 55, Raphael, Michelangelo at 50, April O'Neil at 25 points. So nobody on this team is very expensive, and because of that, they have short dials. Another con of Swarm style teams is that no one figure tends to have a complete power set. Now this team's pretty good. I have a lot of charge with a close combat style attack, but you'll have trouble finding ranged attackers like people that have running shot Psychic Blast or running shot Pulse Wave They do exist, but they're pretty few and far between, so it's hard to run a Swarm team with those on it. So you tend to not have complete power sets. They might have Pulse Wave, but not running shots, so then it's up to you to figure out how to get them there and set up your attack without getting attacked first, and things like that. And the very last con of a Swarm team is they do tend to be difficult to run, and the only reason for this is because you have to make sure that you're maximizing each action. Now we have Leonardo on the team to give us +1 actions for the turn, which really helps, so we can do stuff with 4 out of our 6 figures per turn, as long as they're allowed to be given an action. Tilly can carry 4 of our figures, so that'll at least save, in my example, probably all 4 turtles are who she'd carry. So that saves them, at least an action for getting into place. And then after that, it's just counting on Leonardo to keep the action tokens off. And typically, you have to set things up a turn or 2 ahead of time to make sure that you can focus fire with all your figures so that you get the most out of the Swarm team, because that's really where their power lies, is the focus fire for a ton of damage if you do really well. Like Leonardo has Blades, Claws, Fangs with 11 attack, so that's possibly 6 damage. Then Michelangelo has Flurry, so he could deal 4 damage possibly and give 2 action tokens. Raphael has Flurry and does penetrating damage, so he could deal another 4 damage. So that's 8, and 6 is 14. And then another 2 damage with Blades, Claws, Fangs from Donatello is 20 damage out of your 4 clicks. If you rolled, again, extremely well, getting 6s on everything and your opponent doesn't reduce anything. So that's why these teams tend to be really strong and really aggressive. It's probably one of my favorite team styles to run, just because there's always a backup plan, and I'm really big on that. And that there's no figure that you lose really that makes it so that your team won't function. Whereas on a tentpole team, for example, a Jakeem Thunder team, once Jakeem Thunder goes down, there's no real plan for that team, especially if it happens early. Or if you had a one-man army 300-point team like the new Zeus from the Mighty Thor, like you were running him and he went down. Whereas this one, if Tilly goes down, I can still move my team around. If Leonardo goes down, I still have 3 actions, and Tilly can move them around to try to keep some action economy down. So I do have backup plans in here, and that's what makes this style really nice. Alright guys, that's all I have for you today. Please remember that it's only critical miss if you don't have probability control.